Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your trusted source for the untold stories behind the palace walls. I'm your host, and today we're bringing you an investigation that will change everything you thought you knew. Stay with us until the end, because what we're about to reveal has been hidden for years. Let's get started. They found the photos 3 days after the wedding. These weren't blurry vacation pictures or innocent party photos. These were the kind of photos that lawyers make disappear before anyone can see them. And for 6 years, they stayed hidden until now. Because Lady Colin Campbell just said what the palace has been scared someone would say out loud, and once you hear it, you can't forget it. She didn't use secret code words. She didn't just hint at it. She looked straight into the camera and said the 2 words that change everything about the fairy tale story you were told: Yacht Girl. And suddenly, all those deleted Instagram posts, all those erased guest lists, all those summers that don't make sense, they're not just rumors anymore. They're clues. And they all point to one question that nobody in Buckingham Palace wants answered. How does a cable TV actress with an average acting resume end up on private yachts in the Mediterranean surrounded by billionaires she has no reason to know? You don't just stumble into those circles. You don't get invited by accident. And you definitely don't get your past erased unless someone very powerful decides it needs to disappear. But here's the thing about erasers. They leave marks. Digital marks? The kind that live in computer data, in saved web pages, in the memories of people who are actually there. And Lady Colin Campbell just ripped off the bandage. This isn't about being jealous. This isn't about hating someone who married a prince. This is about a story that was rewritten while it was happening. And the people who helped rewrite it thought you'd never notice. They were wrong. Before we continue with this shocking investigation, make sure you're subscribed to Royal Daily Report and hit that notification bell so you never miss our exclusive revelations about the royal family. Before Meghan Markle became a duchess, before the Oprah interview, before the Netflix deal, there was a version of her life that doesn't appear in any official biography. A version that includes summers in places like Ibiza, Monaco, and the Turkish coast. Not for filming movies, not for charity work, for parties. But not the kind of parties you read about in magazines. The kind where phones get taken away at the door. Where the guest list is smaller than a classroom, and every name on it could buy a small country. Where the women are beautiful, the men are powerful, and everyone knows exactly what the deal is. Lady Colin Campbell says Meghan wasn't just attending these events, she was working them. Not serving drinks, not passing out appetizers. And the thing is, it worked, because somehow, a woman whose biggest acting credit was a legal TV show on basic cable ended up in the same social circle as tech billionaires, foreign royalty, and men whose names you only hear whispered in financial circles. That doesn't happen because you're charming. That happens because you're smart and calculating. They were tryouts. And according to Lady C, Meghan passed every single one. She describes a woman who studied power the way some people study law. A woman who understood that access isn't about talent or luck, about being in the right place, at the right time, with the right people, thinking you belong there. And if you have to spend a summer on a yacht to get that closeness, if you have to laugh at jokes that aren't funny and attend parties that aren't fun, well, that's just the price you pay. But here's where it gets darker. Because those yachts, those parties, those summers, they weren't just about making connections. They were about leverage, about becoming someone people owed favors to, someone people had reasons to protect. And when Meghan Markle walked into Kensington Palace for the first time, she didn't walk in alone. She walked in with a network of people who had invested in her success, people who had secrets, people who needed her story to stay clean. So when the engagement was announced, the scrubbing began. Photos disappeared from Google Images. Social media accounts went private. Entire summers vanished from her timeline like they never happened. The palace called it privacy protection. Lady Colin Campbell calls it something else, a cover-up. If you're finding this investigation as shocking as we are, don't forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report. We're committed to bringing you the truth that mainstream media won't talk about. Hit that subscribe button now. And it might have worked forever if one person hadn't decided to talk. The insider didn't give their name. They didn't go on camera. But what they told Lady Colin Campbell was specific enough to make her stop mid-sentence during the interview. Something she'd say when someone asked why she kept flying to places she couldn't afford, attending events she had no reason to be at. She'd smile and she'd say, "Real success isn't about where you are, it's about who believes you belong there." Lady Colin repeated that line slowly, let it hang in the air. Then she said 5 words that turned the entire interview into something everyone was talking about online. That explains everything about her. Because if you understand that philosophy, if you really think about it, everything else makes sense. The yacht trips weren't vacations. They were investments. The billionaires weren't friends. And the prince, he wasn't the love story. He was the escape plan. The insider claims Meghan never looked uncomfortable at those events, never out of place. While other women posed for attention, she watched, took mental notes, studied who had power and who pretended to. She wasn't there to party. She was there to learn and advance. And when she left those circles, she didn't leave empty-handed. She left with contacts, with introductions, with the kind of social power that doesn't show up on a resume, but opens doors that talent never could. But she also left with something else: witnesses. People who remembered her. People who saw what she was doing, even if they didn't say it out loud at the time. People who knew that the woman in the tiara giving speeches about compassion was the same woman who spent summers in a world built on excess and transactions. And when Lady Colin Campbell started asking questions, some of those people finally answered. They did it because they were tired of watching the media treat like a saint someone they knew wasn't one former acquaintance, reportedly told Lady C that Meghan had a gift for making powerful men feel seen, not seduced, seen. She'd ask questions nobody else asked, remember details nobody else remembered, and by the end of the night, they'd want her at the next event. Not because she was the most beautiful woman there, but because she made them feel like the most important man there. That's not luck, that's a skill, and it's a skill that transfers. Because years later, when she met a prince who felt overlooked by his own family, guess what she did? She made him feel seen. We're halfway through this explosive investigation. If you haven't already, subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now. We're the channel that dares to tell the stories others won't touch. Don't miss out, subscribe today. But if Lady Colin Campbell's revelations stopped at yachts and billionaires, the palace could survive it. Scandalous, sure, but not catastrophic. The real bomb is what came next. Because Lady C didn't just talk about the parties, she talked about the photos, not the ones that got scrubbed, the ones that survived. She claims there are images still circulating in private circles that place Meghan at events she's never publicly admitted to attending. Events where the guest list included people whose names trigger congressional investigations. Events where the host wasn't just wealthy, he was criminal. Lady Colin didn't name names on camera, but she didn't have to. Because within hours of her interview going live, the internet did what the internet does best. It started connecting dots. Old archived party listings, flight logs, social media tags from accounts that went dark years ago. And in the center of it all, one face kept appearing. Same smile, same silhouette, same carefully angled photos that were supposed to stay private. The palace has never commented on these images, not once, and their silence is deafening. Because if they deny it, they open the door to legal discovery, to lawsuits, to demands for proof. And if they confirm it, even partially, the entire narrative collapses. So they stay quiet and hope it goes away. But Lady Colin Campbell isn't staying quiet, and the photos aren't going away. She describes a systematic effort to erase Meghan's digital footprint in the months before the engagement was announced. Copyright strikes on old images, aggressive legal letters to bloggers, entire websites taken offline. For years, the scrubbing held. The narrative stayed clean, and anyone who questioned it got labeled a conspiracy theorist or a racist, or both. But buried truth has a way of resurfacing, especially when the people who buried it stop caring about protecting the person it was buried for. And according to Lady C, that's exactly what happened. Because once Meghan and Harry left the royal family, once they started doing tell-all interviews and signing Netflix deals, the people who had spent years keeping her secrets started asking themselves a very simple question. Why are we still protecting her? And one by one, they stopped. The photos that were supposed to stay hidden started leaking. And the palace, which had spent millions on crisis management, realized they were fighting a battle they couldn't win. Because you can't control a story once the people who lived it decide to tell it. Lady Colin Campbell calls it poetic justice. The woman who built a brand on controlling her narrative is losing control of the one story she never wanted told. This story keeps getting deeper and more shocking. Make sure you're subscribed to Royal Daily Report so you get every update as this investigation continues to unfold. Click that subscribe button and join our community of truth seekers. But here's where it gets even stranger. The media won't touch it. Major news outlets that spent years covering every royal sneeze suddenly go silent when these accusations surface. Journalists who built careers on palace gossip refuse to ask the obvious questions. And when independent creators try to cover it, they get demonetized, shadow banned, or hit with legal threats so vague they can't even fight back. Lady Colin Campbell says it's not a coincidence, it's coordination. She claims there are powerful interests both inside and outside the palace who benefit from keeping Meghan's pre-royal life buried. People who are at those same parties, people whose names appear on the same guest lists, people who have far more to lose than a duchess with a podcast deal. And as long as those people have power, the full truth stays locked away. But the cracks are widening. Because every time someone like Lady C speaks up, every time a new photo surfaces, every time an insider breaks their silence, the wall gets weaker. And walls don't hold forever. The question isn't whether the truth will come out. The question is, what happens when it does? Because if even half of what Lady Colin Campbell claims is true, then the fairy tale isn't just damaged. It's fiction. And the woman who spent years lecturing the world about authenticity built her entire life on a carefully constructed lie. But maybe that's the most unsettling part. Not that she lied, but that she was so good at it that nobody noticed until it was too late. Lady Colin Campbell ends most of her interviews the same way, with a warning. She says the story isn't over, that what's been revealed so far is just the surface, that there are layers beneath layers and people are only now starting to dig. She talks about financial records that don't match timeline, about travel schedules that contradict official statements, about relationships that were never disclosed and meetings that were never supposed to happen, and she says the palace knows all of it. They've known from the beginning, but they made a choice. They decided that protecting the institution was more important than exposing the truth, that a scandal could be managed, but a collapse couldn't. So they buried it, paid people off, threatened others, and bet everything on the idea that the public would never care enough to look deeper. For a long time, that bet paid off. But Lady Colin Campbell just called their bluff. And now the palace is stuck, because if they respond, they legitimize the claims. And if they stay silent, the claims grow louder. And the woman at the center of it all? She's in California giving interviews about privacy, launching brands. But history has a way of catching up. And if those yachts, those parties, those carefully hidden summers ever become a legal liability instead of just a PR problem, they'll throw her overboard without a second thought. Lady Colin Campbell knows that, and she's counting on it, because the people who protected Meghan Markle don't love her. They needed her. And the second she stops being useful, she stops being protected. That day might be closer than anyone thinks. The photos are out there. The witnesses are talking. And the internet never forgets. You can scrub metadata. You can delete accounts. You can threaten lawyers and pay off bloggers. But you can't rewrite the past. You can only delay how long it takes for people to find it. And they're finding it now. Before we wrap up, this is your last chance to subscribe to Royal Daily Report. We're bringing you investigations like this every week. The real stories behind the royal headlines. Subscribe now and be part of our growing community. So the next time you see a glossy magazine cover, or a perfectly staged Instagram post, or a tearful interview about victimhood and resilience, ask yourself one question: who's telling this story? And more importantly, who benefits from you believing it? Because Lady Colin Campbell just reminded the world of something the powerful hate to admit. The truth doesn't need permission to exist. It just needs someone brave enough to say it out loud. The palace knows that now. And so does Meghan. That's all for today's investigation here on Royal Daily Report. The truth is out there, and we'll keep bringing it to you. What do you think about these revelations? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it with others who need to hear this story, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next episode with more exclusive royal investigations. Until then, keep questioning everything. This is Royal Daily Report, signing off.